The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Mount Vernon, job number 31099. Please utilize this job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment or Pierce Manufacturing. Let's get started with some details of your apparatus on this orientation. Starting on the front bumper, you have two attachment points or closed hooks. Directly in the center, there is a tubbed out section for hose storage. Moving to the headlight cluster, the outer headlights are your low beams, and the inner section of the cluster of the headlights are your high beams. Moving up from that are two emergency light clusters. On the outside of that is the right and left turn arrow indicator. Moving up from that to span the large area of the windshield, there are three windshield wipers. On the driver's side, there is the 120 20 amp shore power. There is a mid-cab emergency light. There are grab handles at all entry points. You have front and rear handle locking door handles. Looking at the front bumper once again from this side, you have a cutout space for an electronic siren. You have an additional electronic siren. There are two bumper mounted air horns, a front 1.5" discharge, underneath the Pierce logo is the hood latch. Reach underneath, pull toward you, that will open and release the hood. This is the indication for pushing to raise the cab in the yellow, and the red quarter turn is the direction of lift or lower. To the right hand side is the ATF fill for power steering fluid. On the passenger side, this is your windshield wiper fluid location. On the exterior, once again, entry points, you have grab rails. On the very bottom in the driver operator section is the shore power. Just next to the shore power is the air inlet. Moving to the exterior, the front and mid-cab emergency lights. There are work or step lights located in the step wells. Also, just beneath the pump panel, there is a pull-out step. Working through the side of the apparatus, there are a variety of fold-down handles or steps, and this is a twist to telescopically lift or lower the light. Looking at the very bottom, this is your 2.5" intake. This is the large diameter intake. At the very bottom, this is the drain. In the front and rear of the rear axle, there are foldable wheel chocks. At the very top of the apparatus on the pump panel, on the left-hand side, there is a foam level for tank A, a pump intake gauge, a pump discharge gauge. This is your pump overheat indicator, light indicating. Vacuum test ports and pressure test ports. As you'll notice, their color coding of the discharge port. For example, cross lane number 1 is yellow. The discharge port is also color coded yellow. This is discharge port 2. They're color coded orange, and so on. The large diameter deluge discharge is a wheel valve. It is also color coded, along with discharge port number 1, which is color coded in the white. This is a pattern throughout the entire apparatus to reduce confusion and mistakes on emergency scenes. You can also see the indicators for foam, which pieces of discharge will be able to have foam and water. They're labeled by the foam water red indicator. Same with the number 3 discharge port. It is blue in color. It coincides with the blue discharge port. The green turn wheel, which is a wheel valve indicated under green for large diameter, and the current red symboled Pierce foam master system. This is also your placard for your Watrous pump to determine the type of pump model and trans model that you're using for it. It's the information placard. This is your air outlet. Next over is going to be your air supply for volume. These are your crosslay levers for drains. Once again, color-coded for yellow for crosslay number 1, white for crosslay number 2, and blue for crosslay number 3. Moving to the right of that, this is your auxiliary foam functions. This is your inlet for foam. Inside that cap, there is also a foam strainer. To the right of that is a lever for the auxiliary intake, which is a 2.5. Moving up onto the pump panel is the tank fill. Moving to the right of that is the tank to pump. Moving just below that, this is your placard to indicate your test pressures for your pump at 150, 200, and 250 psi. Above that is the throttle control by Pierce, which also has in it a water level indicator. At the very top is your engine cooler, which is a quarter turn. And just beneath that one, the same valve type is a quarter turn, and that is your recirculating line. Below that is your primary primer fire pump primer. Just below that is your pump drain. And below that is your manual pump transmission. Looking inside this closed area, this is your foam lever, which is horizontal for foam action. In the back of the apparatus, you have once again the 2 folding wheel chocks. We'll talk a little bit about what's behind these doors also with some photos. This is the front DEF fill door, an emergency mid-cab light. Moving just behind that is an SCBA storage location. And just below that is your diesel fuel fill location. Looking at the side compartment, you have adjustable shelving. This is the mid compartment long. You have once again adjustable shelving. Just below that is your DEF fill location. To behind the tire is your low sulfur fuel or diesel. And just above that is a single bottle storage. Moving to the rear compartment, once again, adjustable shelving in this location. In the very back of the apparatus, you'll see a variety of different emergency lights. This one's on the upper section, barely visible. This is a additional emergency light. Moving down, it's going to be a floodlight. Starting in the brake cluster, you have an LED brake light on both right and left side. Just beneath that, you have a right and left turn indicator arrow. Below that is your reverse lights. There are 4 emergency lights to the rear of this apparatus, in addition with a cross handle and grab bar. As you can see, there are 2 folding steps which have handles. In addition, you have a traffic advisor in the very back, a compartment for long storage. Looking at the switches on the back, you have a hose bed light and a rear scene light. On the very top, you can see the hose bed illumination lights here. In the center of this compartment is a long storage compartment.
Once again, looking at the back and side view are equally dispositioned on both lights. Looking once again, a rear or side-facing emergency light. Just above that, you have your horizontal equipment rack, which houses your ladders. Just behind this, you have additional storage. This is the reservoir for filling of the hydraulic. Once again, an adjacent emergency light on the passenger side. Just in front of that, you have bottle storage. Looking at the rear compartment, there are 3 adjustable shelves. This is just behind the rear tire, and this is going to be bottle storage. The compartment right next to that is the equipment rack hydraulic reservoir. Just to the front of the tire is going to be 2 bottle storage locations. Moving up, you have a pull-out, drop-down shelf. You have 3 adjustable shelves in this location. Moving midship, you have a compartment that opens. We'll talk a little bit about more what's behind that compartment as we move forward. There is a 2.5-inch discharge port. Additional 2.5-inch discharge port. An additional 2.5 discharge port step down to 1.5 inches. This is your large diameter intake. Large diameter discharge. On the right-hand side is the equipment lever action to raise and lower the equipment rack. On the lower section down here, these are controls for your air chuck in addition with drain. To the right-hand side, there are the 4 discharge port levers for drains. A close-up look once again at those ports. Here are the large diameter and passenger and crosslays drain levers. There is a leaf valve drain, air supply volume, and an air outlet. Behind that closed door is the intake relief valve, in addition with the water strainer. Looking at the inside of the cab, at the rear seats, there is a compartment that gains access to the rear of the motor. There are 2 interior handles. Above there is a AC unit. As you can see in the front of the cab, you'll see a variety of different warning labels and hazard labels. On this side you have an air horn and a mechanical siren pedal switches. You have 2 12-volt access points. There's an indication light for a wiring behind this red checkered switch, and then the front port is a diagnostic port. Over the passenger's forehead, you'll see there are a variety of blank switches for driver's scene, passenger scene, and front scene. These operate all lights, and you have additional light switches for future equipment needs. Moving to the left of the passenger seat, this is the electric air horn and mechanical siren control. This is your main Motorola radio. Just above that, in the very front, is a red illuminating compartment door light that flashes and sounds. There is your main unit radio speaker. Looking at the back, you have space for adjustable shelving. Looking at the entrance to the driver's side, this is the shore inlet and the air inlet. This is where the shore power charges the auto charger, which gives you the readout as to its charging. Take note, there are a variety of caution and warning labels also located in this area. Please be familiar with those. Looking below at the left kneecap area, this is going to be the discharge port for diagnostics. Just above that is a 1/4 turn red switch, which is your battery switch. Moving also to this area, this is the Pierce Manufacturing Information Sheet. There is the diagnostic ports for ABS diagnostics, engine, regen, and regen inhibit. On the left-hand side of the driver, there is the ignition switch. There's a start switch, and just above that, there is the hazard lights. On the left-hand side of your dash, this is the transmission temperature, oil pressure, DEF level, water temperature, tachometer, speedometer, voltage gauge, this is your front air supply. Just below that is your rear air supply. This is the ultra low sulfur diesel fuel only gauge. This is an informational display area. Along the sides also informational display areas will illuminate if there are issues. On the right-hand side, next to the driver's right side, is the on-off high idle switch. This is your Allison transmission pad. Moving to the right-hand side, this is your pump shift lever, air actuated. Above that is your climate control. And moving down, there is a bank of switches, all which are for future use, in addition with the load manager, which is highlighted. There is the engine off for your brake. This is the high, medium, or low brake setting. And the mirror heat switch. Also on the very top are the right and left mirror controls. This is your pull to apply parking brake, push to release. On the left-hand side, this is a close-up of the engine on-off braking system. This is a close-up of the road pump transmission shift lever. These are your mirror controls for both left and right. This is the climate control center. Looking overhead, this is the height, length, and gross vehicle weight rating. Please familiarize yourself with those. Over the driver operator's head, there is an emergency master, a roof light, front warning, side warning, lower rear warning, upper rear warning, opticom, and perimeter. In this section, there are air horns, a future, siren brake, an additional future, driver and passenger scene, front scene, and rear scene. This is your traffic advisor. This is the indication to seat belts, whether someone has them on or does not. This is your Firecom headset system. Once again, this is the rear section of your apparatus showing the rear seats with the access hole. In that access port, there is the transmission and oil check. Behind that seat, there is located an auto charger, which is part of the shore power. This is your Motorola control center, where your radio information is housed. At the top of your fire engine, this is your master stream device. There are 3 levers on this for movement. Please familiarize yourself prior to using this, as this can easily become detached if you are not familiar with how this operates. This is the extend-a-gun, which allows your apparatus monitor to be raised. On the right-hand side is the hydraulic reservoir. This is your add for fluid. On also your equipment rack, you have a 10-foot folding ladder. This is your fill for water main fill at the top. This is the foam tank, which is foam A. There are work lights in this area also for safety. You have movable storage racks in addition with hose dividers. Congratulations, Mount Vernon, on your apparatus, 31099. If you have any questions, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment salesperson. Thank you.